So the Oda got their general turn. I think I may have cheated with the Nobunaga card by moving other people. I'll have to look that up. They got their general movement, and they pulled troops from that way space back to Nobunaga. And Hideyoshi made an attack on Mr. Miyogi's or Miyoshi's clan. Yeah, the Miyoshi clan. And sorry about that. I really ought to study before I look at things. And managed to capture their castle. There was a field combat, which they won, and then they proceeded to storm with a siege. It's not clear in the rules whether or not you can do that, but it makes sense. Even though that looks like the only space on the board, they do have a couple more spaces across on the islands, which they can use to rebuild their forces and re-engage. Their leader was wounded in the battle, badly wounded, which means he's out for a couple of turns. It's going to be slow getting them back on the board. They may be destroyed by then. Turns out that was a really dumb move by the Oda player. The Ikoiki got a good enough roll. They gathered all their forces and captured Ibraki. And what's so bad about that is that at this point the Oda troops over here are going to be out of command essentially, which reduces their effectiveness in combat. Of course, if they attack in this space, they are in command for the attack, so that may not be so bad. I have to look at the rules for this to see what's going to happen, but it looks like a bad move. The Ikoiki were unable to use all their movement points. I mean, they could have, but they didn't want to make an attack out of here, where they have a small stack, but they're surrounded by other units. And they didn't want to lose, they didn't want to risk any of their other places. They've got a unit in each, which makes it a little bit harder to capture them. They could be in trouble too if their supply gets cut off. Well, I pulled the end of turn chit, and that put me to the regroup phase after Oda got a card for Oninkyo. Kyoto. Now, one, I couldn't find a clear answer to my rules question, which is you check for out of supply in each combat subsegment. That seems a little weird, as though maybe there's something odd in the rules, something that I'm not paying attention to or haven't been able to find anything about. It looks to me like I can move to here and be in command for the combat itself. But the other issue was it looked as though in that particular section of the rules and nowhere else in the rules that I've seen, it looked as though you actually need a daimyo or a samurai to move units at all, which I haven't been doing, and the rest of the rules don't seem to imply at all. Might be an issue of something that was lost between the translation, where in the original Japanese version you actually had to have a leader to move units, and it's not intended now. I don't know. I'm going to keep playing the way I'm going, but yeah, this is the kind of game where the rules are so questionable, you don't know if you have anybody's intention for them, so tinkering with them seems perfectly reasonable. End of 2 turns at a most dangerous time. The Oda got the first 2 chit draws and proceeded to lay siege to a bunch of kind of troubling border areas. They actually captured the Akai one down there. Nobunaga himself didn't move. There was an attack on the Ikoiki, and they were repulsed. Now, then they played the one card they had, a brilliant maneuver, which allows them to pick whichever chit they want, and they picked the turn end chit. So they were the only ones who got anything, and they picked up their card for the turn for Oninkyo. They did not get a card for capturing an area, because because they own Kyoto. They get an automatic card every turn just for owning that. So it works out kinda. They did not make assaults on either of the two besieged cities here. We've got some of their units left out of supply after a pass through by Hideyoshi. Mainly, though, they're trying to recover from those losses. So far, the Ikuiki have not gotten a turn yet, and they're doing quite well. Actually, no, they got one because they advanced to here. But they didn't get a turn this time, and they're still doing quite well. Their reinforcement schedule being different, taking losses is kind of cool for them because they can get more reinforcements that way. And we got our minor guy who was injured. He'll be coming back as the replacement this turn, I guess. So here on turn 3, the Oda managed to grab the remainder of the Akai clan home castles, well, home territories. They still haven't fallen yet. They have to lose their leader before that happens. But that was their main move this time. They didn't increase their troops on a siege and made an attack, but that didn't go anywhere. Top of turn 4, Nobunaga just barely survived a siege and an assault made on him. And now we're in a position where it looks kind of scary, actually, for the Oda side. They're kind of outnumbered up here, and they're definitely not as strong facing the Ikuiki as they'd like to be. We're seeing the miners beginning to shift their forces back into play. And we're only a couple of turns away from the Takeda entering the game. So this could be over pretty quickly, actually. If it is, I'll probably play another one. Akai Asukara went again, and Nobunaga miraculously survived 11 dice, no 6s. He caused a casualty in it. The Oda got an action, and they made Tokugawa a new daimyo, which allows him to give his bonus to more troops or something. Didn't really help here. They got a low roll in terms of units moved, and they were unable to relieve the siege. And in fact, it was a pretty close battle in terms of numbers, but they got soundly thumped. They took 6 losses to 3 for the Asukara-Akai combination. The Oda pulled another chit and got to move again immediately afterwards. And they got a higher roll this time and gathered a lot more forces together, stripping them off of 2 of their sieges here. They still got them barely covered. They did manage to defeat the Asukara and the Akai. It's down to the 2 leaders alone. They managed to get a retreat. I'm playing with the retreat roll, giving a +1 to the guy who's trying to leave. I think it only makes sense to give you a slightly better chance to get out of there, since the effect is you take a shot without being able to respond otherwise.